This Marina Life with MDL Marinas.
I think what we're showing with the scheme is that actually, even if you decide that you want to berth in one of our competitors' marinas, what we hope we do with the scheme is allow that berth holder in the other marina to have the ability to use services, save as much money as possible, which means they'll use their boat more often, and then we can keep the hobby going we all enjoy.
I've been planning to keep my boat on the south coast, and I have been comparing what deals are available.
My vision of that future is I would like Otium to be just like another standard currency.
Hello and welcome to another episode of This Marina Life with me, Ceri Hurford-Jones. This one has the very simple title, Otium Rewards Explained, as I take the opportunity to put some of your questions to the Sales and Marketing Director of MDL Marinas, Tim Mayer. Otium is Latin for leisure time, and the MDL loyalty scheme is all about rewarding you for being an MDL berth holder in your precious leisure time on the water. I hope you find what Tim has to say as illuminating as I did, and that it helps you to understand more fully the advantages that being an MDL berth holder can provide. Tim, thank you so much for giving up your time to join us to talk all things Otium.
Yeah, Ceri, not a problem at all.
What people need to know and understand the bigger picture.
So how can you develop a better product which serves people in a much more better place? And really that is what Otium is about. Otium is just about providing freedom to allow any boater to choose how they use their discounts and use their benefits based on their boating habits.
What in terms of the actual number of customers you have, what's the split in terms of size of boats?
Yeah, no problem at all. So in terms of those larger vessels, it's about 10 to 15% of the park. And we run a passport scale scheme. We still run that scheme, and that allows people to cruise across over 150 destinations in Europe. And again, actually, the amount of berth holders that use that is about 4%.
Do Otium points actually have a value per point?
So all Otium points is really simple. If you've got 1 point, you've got £1 to spend.
And they can be redeemed by any customer, but they have to be obviously customers of MDL.
No, they can be customers of anyone, and actually this was part of the reason for putting the scheme together, because you can be a berth holder at Boatfolk and you might get 10% discount on boatyard services, but actually you could then, if you wanted to, come over to an MDL boatyard, and as a visitor you'd get 14% back, so actually you get a much better discount.
And what about then customers themselves? There's a benefit to being a Berthing Plus member.
Any person that joins the MDL network as a berth holder is going to join on the Otium scheme, and on the Otium scheme they get a whole range of percentage points back based on whatever they're buying. So for berthing it's 5%, boatyard services it's 22%, visitor nights it's 20%, storage ashore 10%. So you get money back for absolutely everything you're doing in your day-to-day boating life, which is why, depending on how you use your boat, depends on how valuable the scheme is to you.
Yeah, and you know what you've obviously designed here is a scheme to reward those people that use your services. So I completely understand that. Let's just see if we can put a sort of kind of a reference point in here, if you like, a sort of a average user. And let's say over the course of a cruising season they get, I don't know, say 300 plus points. That sounds quite a lot. What could they actually use that for, Tim?
So it depends on, I guess, what you value the most. If you regularly visit marinas, then you could, say, spend 300 points getting 14-day cruising bundles. That gives you the freedom berthing benefits. It could be that you're a dry stack customer, so let's say you use a lot of fuel to go from Hamble Point over to Cowes, then you've got 300 odd points that you can use to put petrol in your tank. So actually, instead of paying the pump price, it might be you're not paying any price. If an average rib steak is £100 to fill as an example, that's 3 tanks that you've got. Or, if you really wanted to, you could save up your points and just put them against next year's annual berthing, which means again you'll save a quite huge amount when you next come to renew.
We'll be talking here a couple of dozen different options available for people that have got points.
So do you know what, that varies a load of options, and I think on the website we've got a list of about 30, and you can see those at mdlrewards.co.uk. But in terms of actual options to use your points, you can use points on pretty much every product that all the marinas have.
Once they've got those points, how do they actually then use them? What's the methodology to getting the rewards that you've earned?
So it's really easy. If you want to redeem them against any of the MDL services, you simply just let the team know at the till point, and they'll just take those points off as payment for you, and you can part pay using card or cash and points, or just use your points altogether. And even better than that, if you really wanted to and you wanted to spend points with some of our tenant partners, then you just go onto the website, you redeem the vouchers for the tenant partners within your MDL area, and that allows you to then go and maybe enjoy a meal at the Harbour Hotel, maybe at the Ketch Rigger, maybe at the Gaff Rigger. It might be you want to go and get some marine services, but those points can be spent in about it's just over 30 tenants now, so it's really good.
I have to be honest with you, I hadn't quite realised the breadth of offer available, and your tenants are obviously wanting to encourage this and want to make more sure that people are using these points for their services.
Absolutely. We have got a big variety of tenants within our network. We've got almost 500 altogether, and they range from someone in a single van going up to some fairly large marine businesses such as Destiny Marina sort of springs to mind, and a whole heap of brokers. So actually, if we can create a system where not only MDL customers can spend in those tenant businesses, but also Premier's customers, Boat Folks customers, anyone's customers, Yacht Havens, whatever, can spend the discounts we've given them in their businesses, that is a fantastic place to be.
Completely understand that. So we keep saving hard then, we better buy a boat in the end, will we?
Well, you never know.
We've got some more questions from some existing MDL berth holders and a few people that we've contacted.
I've been an MDL berth holder for many years, always been really, really pleased with the service that we've had. And therefore, it's quite difficult to sort of change a package that you know and you're familiar with. So at current, we have a Freedom berth holder package. So do I have to change to Otium? And also, will Otium be phased in to actually replace the Freedom berth holder packages in the future? Thanks very much for taking the time to answer my question.
I think the quick answer to that is no. So essentially, we launched Otium in September 2020, and we were really clear at the time that actually if you're on the Freedom Berthing scheme and you think that works better for you and you prefer it, then you can just keep renewing on it each year. All the renewals we have, which is the largest section of renewals, are about to get their renewal packs at the beginning of December, and they'll have the option either to renew on their current Freedom Berthing scheme or to switch over to Otium. It's entirely up to them.
Obvious question I have to ask it is why continue with Freedom Berthing when clearly there are so many more benefits to Otium?
Because it should be down to customer choice. And I think for us, we made a conscious decision in 2020 to launch a new scheme which would give MDL a real USP compared to its competitors. Also gives the industry something to think about around how it rewards spending, and also how it tries to integrate the different services together at any one point. Now, if customers actually prefer an older scheme and they want to keep with it, then as long as they're with us, that's absolutely fine. It makes not a lot of difference to us as an organisation.
Clearly, you'd encourage people to consider Otium if they're still on the Freedom Berthing package, obviously.
I think what I'd say is I'd encourage people to do what's best for them, and it's as simple as that. You know, berthing products change frequently, and they always have done. MDL, it's actually our 50th year next year, and over 50 years our product selection and our services have changed dramatically and will continue to evolve following Otium being launched.
Another question I'm going to put to you.
Hi, my question is actually about storage ashore. I've been planning to keep my boat on the south coast, and I have been comparing what deals are available with MDL and with other competitors. And I understand that with MDL I could get up to 6 weeks storage ashore. Other competitors are offering up to 8 weeks, and I just wondered, one, if that was correct, and two, is there something else that MDL offer instead of this extra storage ashore?
What would you say to people who have done some analysis between your scheme and others?
So I'd say we've got a fair bit of work to do with the Otium scheme in terms of actually ensuring people can see just how simple the scheme is and actually just how beneficial it is. Because if we actually took some of those points, we can very simply do the maths. I think on boatyard discount, and Ceri, if you've got detail there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 10%. Yep. On the Otium scheme, you get 22%. And actually, if you've got points on account, you could spend your whole bill on boatyard services using points. You wouldn't have to spend anything. So 22% in my head is much better than 10. Premier, I think, are 15% on boatyard services. So again, 22% is better. Storage ashore is an interesting one. So we do storage ashore on Otium for up to 8 weeks a year, which is the same as Premier. and boat folk do it up to 6 weeks a year, so certainly better than boat folk. And I think Premier do some unlimited in the winter to try and encourage customers to churn their boat over the yard in that point of time. So in all of those circumstances, I'd have said Otium is much more competitive and holds its own on the storage ashore. And actually, in terms of buying your berth in the first place, I may be wrong, but I think Premier charge you a bit if you do a DD, and they give you a discount when you pay in full.
Yep.
We do, when people pay in full, they get 5% of that back and can spend whatever points they've got on their package. So even if they're joining us for the first time, if they've been a visitor on the scheme and they've got points, that goes towards the cost. So again, their discount's much more than that, much more than anyone else is able to offer. And actually, the one thing that is important is a lot of customers do buy DD, so rather than charge them more, we give them points back every single month, so they get 5% no matter how they're paying us. So I think what I would say is our actual reward system is not just competitive, it absolutely wipes the floor with anything else that's on the marketplace, but more importantly to that, it allows customers to choose how they use their discounts depending on how they use their boat, and that's the important fact.
Let's take another question.
Hello, I keep my boat in the Solent, and for many years now I've enjoyed cruising down the west coast in the summer. With the freedom berthing, that was a great tool that we could use to stop off at many different locations or hide from weather, and of course that would be free. So we're just wondering how this would work alongside Otium.
There's no change in Otium at all. So if you're on Otium and you are cruising, then use your points, you get a cruising bundle and you can cruise in exactly the same way. So freedom berthing, you've got up to 30 days at any one time. Otium, you can do exactly the same. And actually on the Platinum scheme we've got with Otium, you can get unlimited cruising in the same way you can for freedom berthing. So again, no real difference. It's just rather than having the ability to cruise for free as it is, you would just use your points to pay for it through the bundle system we have.
And let's just remind ourselves then, what is the cost? How does that work in terms of what you have to pay, or how do you get onto the enhanced bundle?
So it's as simple as when you buy your boat that you get a percentage of points up front and you can spend those on whatever you want. So if you were to take an average boat that cruises across the West Country, so let's take a 12 metre boat, let's say it's coming from the Hamble, those boats are going to be receiving about 600 or 700 points at the time they first take up the berthing contract. For them to go cruising for free, they could buy a cruising bundle for 300 points, which gives them 14 days, or they might want to use the 550 point bundle, which is 28 days, or they might think, actually I want to join the Platinum scheme, which has a slightly increased berthing rate, but that gives them unlimited cruising and the ability to earn points on all the other services available.
So it's an add-on to their berth, so they pay a berth rate. You choose then on the menu as to what that berth rate actually looks like. Is that correct?
You just choose whichever product suits you, yeah. And those points sit in your account. Everyone has an online account which you can go to imdl.co.uk. You log in, that shows you what points you've got in real time. You'll get a monthly communication letting you know what you've got, what you've spent, what you've redeemed, etc. So it's really transparent, really easy, and it means that you can have entire flexibility and exactly the same use as anyone else in the estate.
And I think people are really interested to know sort of how the scheme's going. You say it's been going since 2000. What's the kind of take-up at the moment? Can you tell us that in terms of the actual percentages between those still on freedom berthing and those going on to Otium?
So the scheme started in September 2020. Now I'll split this in terms of visitors. So we currently have 23,000 just over visitors that are on the scheme, and out of that 23,000 there are about 7,000 visitors that use the scheme regularly, and when I say regularly it's a visit or two a month. In terms of berth holders, well, Otium is the biggest berth holder pool we have, so there's 53% of customers at the minute on the scheme. That's 2,700 people. There's about 2,400 on freedom berthing.
And that's really encouraging, I think, in terms of numbers. You're sort of seeing that increasing year on year. Do you have a goal? Do you have an aim in terms of the numbers?
Do you know what? Not really in terms of the numbers, but certainly our aim is to be the best marina operator we can be in the UK. And I think what we're showing with this scheme is that actually, even if you decide that you want to berth in one of our competitors' marinas, because Ceri, let's not be under any illusion, most customers choose a marina because of its location as opposed to anything else. What we hope we do with the scheme is allow that berth holder in the other marina, depending on what services they use or not, to have the ability to use services, save as much money as possible, which means they'll use their boat more often, and then we can keep the hobby going we all enjoy. But what is interesting though is that we do, as you'd expect, new joiner surveys when people join MDL, and actually 15% of all the customers that do join because of the pricing and Otium product.
And that's the bottom line. You've got to make it as attractive and as simple to understand as possible.
I think the one thing that's really exciting about MDL, actually, and one of the changes we put in since 2020 has been the fact that the products we offer absolutely are tailored to how people do stuff. So if you remember, we launched Simply Berthing. Simply Berthing was a small boat package that was designed to attract some of the smaller vessels in where customers just didn't need all the extra benefits. But that product's still there, and actually those berth holders are now earning points in the same way all the visitors do. You've got the standard berthing product, you've then got the platinum berthing product, there's a dry stack product, and obviously there's things like storage ashore as well. So whichever way you cut it, there is a package that suits your boating usage at the right sort of price.
What's the future for Otium?
Okay, the future for Otium is really exciting, actually, and at the moment I'm just searching and evaluating a whole heap of next steps. But I guess if you're asking me what my vision of that future is, I would probably say I would like Otium to be just like another standard currency. So actually, if you do have points on account, you can go and purchase anything within any of our Marinas networks as easily and as smoothly as possible. And as an example, that may be using something as simple as your own debit card to spend points with. So if we can go down that type of route, take out some of the administration that's involved on our Marina side, then actually it's win-win for everyone.
Yeah, making it as seamless as possible. Digital card, we've all got them for all different types of shops and outlets. So another industry lead, perhaps.
Yeah, I really hope so, because actually you've just made the point about everyone's got a phone. So if you can imagine having points on account, and I don't know, you've booked in because you've got some servicing requirements, being able to just click your phone on a card machine in the marina would be so good if you know you're not actually paying for your service.
It always makes it feel so much better in the boating world when you haven't got to actually put your hand in your pocket for actual cash, digital or otherwise, Tim.
Yeah, 100% it does. so that's the plan. We'll try and make it as seamless and as flexible as possible for the future.
As we're reaching the end of today's podcast, Tim, who should boat owners approach to get answers to any further questions they might have on hearing this today?
So I think the best way to make any inquiry, if you go onto the MDL website, so mdlmarinas.co.uk, you can just click the inquiry button. If you select Otium and the marina you're at, it'll go to the marina manager there or one of the regional operations managers.
And if we get further questions from today's chat, perhaps we could put them back to you again, if that's all right, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a problem at all.
Good. Final question, and I know it's one you've referenced already during the course of today's conversation, is about the new berth booking system. How's that going? Because that's a fairly new area that you're trying to develop, is to get people to tell you when they're actually leaving their berth for a decent length of time so you can offer those berths up to other people.
Yeah, this is a really exciting development, actually. So this is... I think it's industry leading, really. So what you're talking about is the fact we launched the online visitor scheme, I think it was April this year. That was twofold, really. That allowed visitors and berth holders, it allowed them to book into MDL Marinas online, which allowed our teams to be able to confirm it much more early and gave better visibility. But if you go right back to the start of the podcast, one of the things I said was it is a real struggle when occupancy is high to ensure there's space for visitors of any type to come into a marina if you don't know berths are vacant, and that is a real challenge for every marina operator. Occupancy in the West Country, as an example, is over 100%, so unless those berth holders are letting the marina operators know that they're vacating their berths, it's really difficult to offer reciprocal berthing. So we decided to launch in April a scheme whereby customers could book out their berth online, and when they did so, they were essentially incentivised. And by incentivising them, the point was that allowed teams to have visibility of when berths in the future would be available, so that if someone did happen to want to book 4 or 5 months ahead of time, they can do so as long as we've got space. And I have to say, I've been really pleased so far. So we've had about 1,200 customers use the system. That's booked a total of 16,000 nights since the season began on the 1st of April. So that's about 40% of our total bookings have hit that system at one point. What I do find interesting is berth holders say, I want a bigger incentive. And you just going, really? So hold on. No other operator offers this at all in the UK. There's one marina that I do offer an incentive back, but there are quite a lot of things that sat with it. And I think what I would say to anyone listening who happens to be a berth holder, look, if you enjoy cruising and you like visiting other locations, which I'm sure most do, then all you need to do is let the marinas know when you're leaving your berth so that you free it up for someone else. And if everyone did that properly, my God, there'd be so much more cruising happening and everyone would enjoy their time a lot more. But this is a fantastic system. It does give people some value back, and you know what? The more people that use it, the more reciprocal berthing will be enabled across the UK.
Can you give us an indication of what those incentives are, Tim?
Yes, they get essentially for every day that someone is using their berth, it works at about 10%. So I think it's about £3 for each day that someone's out. So if you're going away for a week or two, you're going to come back to enough money to have a really nice meal with your partner or your friend or your colleague, etc.
And this is given as Otium points, I take it?
No, well, it depends on your berthing products. If you're on Otium, it will be points. If you're a Freedom berther, it's a credit on your account.
You know what? That is so simple. I think even I got that one, that it's clear and ambiguous. I mean, that's all you want, as you quite rightly say, is to make berths available for more people to enjoy the freedom that they should have out there cruising.
Whichever side of the fence you sit on, as a customer or as a marina operator, the key point is that we all have boats. We all have our leisure time and we all have going places. So if everyone could play their part in that, then that would be truly fantastic for the whole industry.
A huge thank you to Tim Mayer for giving up his time for this episode. I hope you found his responses to your questions useful and that they helped you to understand how the MDL reward scheme actually works. Please do let me know any additional questions that you might have for me to put to him on the areas we've talked about today, and I hope you'll join me again soon for This Marina Life with MDL Marinas, the perfect berth for you and your boat.
The future for Otium is really exciting actually, and at the moment I'm just searching and evaluating a whole heap of next steps, but I guess if you're asking me what my vision of that future is, I would probably say I would like Otium to be just like another standard currency. And I think what we're showing with this scheme is that actually, even if you decide that you want to berth in one of our competitors' marinas, because Ceri, let's not be under any illusion, most customers choose a marina because of its location as opposed to anything else. What we hope we do with the scheme is allow that berth holder in the other marina, depending on what services they use or not, to have the ability to use services, save as much money as possible, which means they'll use their boat more often, and then we can keep the hobby going we all enjoy. And I think what we're showing with this scheme is that actually, even if you decide that you want to berth in one of our competitors' marinas, because Ceri, let's not be under any illusion, most customers choose a marina because of its location as opposed to anything else. What we hope we do with the scheme is allow that berth holder in the other marina, depending on what services they use or not, to have the ability to use services, save as much money as possible, which means they'll use their boat more often, and then we can keep the hobby going we all enjoy.
A huge thank you to Tim Mayer for giving up his time for this episode. I hope you found his responses to your questions both useful and that they helped you to understand how the MDL reward scheme actually works. Please do let me know any additional questions that you might have for me to put to him on the areas we've talked about today, and I hope you'll join me again soon for This Marina Life with MDL Marinas, the perfect berth for you and your boat.